Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Okay. Just ahead of John Shannon standing by, today's guest brought to you by the Vancouver Giants. Giants would like to thank their fans for their support this season at the LEC and can't wait to welcome them back for the 2023-2024 season. Get your season tickets for next year now at vancouvergiants.com/season tickets. And speaking of the Giants, as we talked about in the first segment, the Western Hockey League Bantam Draft is going on right now. A lot of excited kids and, and parents out there. First round coming to a completion, I believe.
Almost over.
Okay. John Shannon joining us, NHL analyst, co-host of the Bob McCown podcast, as the Leafs stay alive 2-1 over the Panthers. John, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
Doing great. I need some clarification, though, Donnie.
Mm-hmm.
When you played in Dawson Creek, after you won the championship, did you dog sled to Ottawa to play the Silver Seven?
How did you know that? It was that long ago. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
because they did do that one year.
Of course, yeah, for the Stanley Cup, as a matter of fact,
for the Dominion Challenge Cup,
that might
commonly
be
known as the Stanley Cup. That's right.
That might be the most Canadian story of all time. Dog sledding to play for the Stanley Cup. Yeah, could be.
It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
Or one of the great names of hockey lore, the Conor Thistles.
Yeah. Although Silver Seven is pretty good too, John. What?
When you consider they played 7 guys on the ice, then.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, let's not forget the rover position. What did the Leafs show you last night, John? Staying alive.
That they could play boring hockey and win. Because that's the one. I mean, it was not the most exciting of games, and really they had to clamp down defensively. And as you talked about with your goaltender in Dawson Creek, they made sure that Joseph Woll did not see very much really intense action. In fact, I blame Florida a little bit for the success of the Maple Leafs because I just think they didn't shoot enough. I mean, Florida last night was looking for the perfect goal. They were looking for the perfect goal all the time. You know, Carter Verhaeghe, just shoot the puck. You got a great shot. Shoot it. Matthew, shoot the puck. That, to me, was the biggest difference, is that one team played boring and won, and the other team started to play fancy like the opposition usually does, and they lost.
Hey, John, you mentioned Verhaeghe not shooting, and certainly that was the case late in the game. Had a chance to shoot, decided to try to make a move. Luke Schenn makes a great defensive play. Has Luke Schenn been better than people expected at Toronto?
Well, remember, this is Toronto now, Donnie. He was always a Maple Leaf, wasn't he?
Of course. Yeah.
I know Vancouver takes claim, as they should, because part of his reinvention occurred in Tampa and in Vancouver. Mm-hmm. But now people here are just relating stories about the 2008 draft. so it's one of those things that it's a classic case here that he's come home. He's come home to Toronto. But Luke Schenn is really one of the great stories of the game about how persistence pays off and his professionalism pays off, and the journey that he's been on, not just in Vancouver, but all over North America, trying to prove that he was worth being a first-round pick way back when, and has proved to be a valuable resource to any team that he played for.
John, Petrangelo's got a hearing for that slash. Boy, that Oilers Vegas series getting nasty right now.
Is it ever?
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody this morning, and I said, "Well, welcome to old-time hockey." And I'm not sure there are some people not enjoying it, but for the most part, I think there's lots of people saying, post-whistle confrontations are a big part of intimidation in the National Hockey League at this time of year, and both teams are not really willing to give very much up. It's been such a strange series, though, when you think about it. It's a Jekyll and Hyde series. The Oilers dictate play in games 2 and 4 and win. Vegas dictates play in games 1 and 3 and they win. and nobody really has home ice advantage. So to me, this is this best out of three now is going to be one that I wonder how a guy like Connor McDavid can now take over a series and dictate play. Can he and Draisaitl do something that they did in Game 2 and be the difference makers? Otherwise, is home ice going to work out for the Golden Knights? And let's face it, this is also a really exciting time, I think, in the career of Jack Eichel, because for the first time, we're seeing what Jack Eichel, what all the hype was all about. He's finally playing at that level.
John, the Canucks salary cap situation is a mess. It's really bad. And they're trying to get rid of some bad contracts. Not easy to do. Teams want a sweetener. Can they do it? Can they? Because if they don't move any bad contracts before July 1st, John, they aren't taking part in July 1st. Can they do it? It's hard to move bad deals.
Well, can they do it? Well, they have to. And let's just remember, for the summertime, you can be 10% over.
Yeah.
But that doesn't. So you can buy yourself some time. But I do think that you have to look back and say, okay, with all of these issues going on, what was the approach that would work for this organization? Not the previous one, but for this organization in trying to stay competitive and trying to rebuild at the same time. Does it make any sense? There's such a good young core of this team when you think of Hughes and Pettersson and Demko, and a few and a couple of the young Russian players. I mean, I think that they're in really good stead. But what you're going to have to bribe people with in order to take those contracts that you mentioned in the previous segment, like Oliver Ekman-Larsson, like Tyler Myers, I just don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it without having the equity that they've given away in a couple of other deals.
Yep.
I think people in Anaheim, Columbus, or San Jose, at least I know how they would answer, but it's the first time we've talked to you since Connor Bedard, since Chicago won the draft lottery. We assume Connor Bedard is going to Chicago. Big, solid hockey market with a history of success. Was that the best scenario for the National Hockey League, John?
I mean, I think if you look at if you're a marketing person and if you're trying to, quote unquote, and I hate this phrase, grow the game, to be in Chicago, to be in a giant media market, to see the reaction in Chicago, not just of hockey fans, but to see the cheers at Wrigley Field when they flashed that the Blackhawks had won the draft lottery. I mean, the White Sox were playing in Kansas City, and there was a chant, "Go Blackhawks, go!" in at Kauffman Stadium, where the White Sox were playing. So it's a good hockey market. Oh, yeah. It's been abused both internally and externally the last 3 or 4 years. It's been abused. The question becomes one of do they deserve this chance more so than does Connor Bedard, should he be in Chicago? It will be great for the National Hockey League to have Connor Bedard in one of the 4th largest markets in North America with a great TV market with a rabid fan base. So the answer is yes, it's good for the National Hockey League. But let's face it too, the Blackhawks are not going to be very good next year. And they may not be very good for 2 or 3 years. And you just hope that Bedard has the opportunity to mature and grow as a player while the team protects him from a lot of outside influences and 31 other teams that are going to try to take advantage of him.
Not so sure about San Jose, but if he would have went to Anaheim or Columbus, I think he'd be closer to a playoff spot or even a Stanley Cup. Hey, what's with all these celebrity interest in the Ottawa Senators? The Weekend's interested now, John.
Well, at least he's a local guy.
That's true.
I mean, he's from Ottawa. I don't know. I don't know. I suspect that everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame in the sports world. You know this as well as I do, Donnie. When you're around musicians, all they want to do is talk hockey, and when you're around hockey players, all they want to do is talk music. So this is a classic case of the looking at the other side and thinking, hey, that looks like fun, Weekend he's got deep pockets, but Ryan Reynolds. By the way, Ryan Reynolds, if his group, the Remington group, end up owning the hockey club, do you know how much Ryan Reynolds is going to put in financially?
3%. I don't know. Yeah.
0.
Wow.
But he's probably going to get 10% of the club to be the face of the club.
Face of it, yeah.
So that's a pretty good opportunity. I've phoned a couple of the ownership groups and offered to be the face of the club for 10%.
Yeah.
Nobody's returning my phone call, but that's another story for another day. So.
Yeah, nobody's made me that offer either, except for that senior team in Dawson Creek. Thanks for this, John.
What was the name of the team?
The Budget Generals. We were sponsored by Budget Rent-A-Car.
Budget Generals.
Yeah. And
so
it
was the Dawson Creek Generals.
Yeah, there were other teams in Dawson Creek, so we were called the Budget Generals. Yeah.
So the Dawson Creek was kind of like the New York of the Northern British Columbia Senior League.
Well, yeah, you know what the Canadian North is like. Fort St. John was the nearest city, and I think it was like 400 miles away.
No, it was 45 minutes.
I exaggerate.
45 minutes.
There was isolation there, John. You know what it's like.
By the way, that was Donnie Taylor making fun of Northern British Columbia, not the kid from Oliver, okay?
Okay, right. Okay.
That was the kid.
Canada.
Okay, come on.
No, I love
town. So, by the way, we were live.
Thank you.
We are live.
As always. Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
I got Schmatzy here, too, but you don't want to see him anymore.
No, sure. Let's
By
take
the
a
way,
look at Bob.
we didn't talk about Joe Cap. We didn't talk about Joe Cap.
Joe Cap.
Well, very quickly then. We're over time, but what the heck? Joe Cap.
I know.
Go.
I'll tell you what. So, if you're a Lion fan, you love Joe Cap. So when do you remember when he came back to run the team?
Yeah, 1990.
Course. Yeah.
So I'm running a TV network for Canadian football at the time.
Right.
And I'm walking across the field. I'm walking across the field, and Joe shows up. And I had never met Joe Cap. And I was in awe of Joe Cap. First of all, he was huge. He was a massive man. Mm-hmm. And he's going to sign Doug Flutie.
Yep.
He's telling me, John, I'm going to sign Doug Flutie. And then he says, here's what Flutie does. And he gets into his quarterback stance like he did for the Lions in 64. And then he says, and then he's going to roll out. And there I am. I'm standing at the 55-yard line with Joe Cap. And he's rolling out to the right. And he says, and this guy's going to change the way we watch Canadian football.
Wow.
Joe Cap and Doug Flutie.
Well, he wasn't wrong.
And Flutie did.
Yeah,
exactly.
Doug Flutie, arguably the best player in CFL history. Joe wasn't far behind.
Yep.
No, I'm with you.
Thanks for this, John. Appreciate it.
Cheers.